It's the Arch Advocate Podcast. Welcome back, everybody. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for hitting subscribe, hitting the share button, telling all your friends, man. This is the #1 podcast being broadcasted from my living room right now. Listen, public service announcement, all right? It's a very serious thing. Listen, there is a disease that strikes about 1 in 1,000 women. Doesn't get very much airplay, and therefore there's not a lot of funds that go to find a cure for this devastating disease. And of course, the disease I'm talking about is horse face. Listen, this is a tragic affliction, right? I mean, if you just look at Sarah Jessica Parker, you will see what happens to a woman when she's struck down with horse face. And now Stormy Daniels, a lady of the night, a lady who provided horizontal relaxation to the leader of the free world, has horse face. And it's tragic and it's a shame. And otherwise, she could have been a very pretty lady, but the horse face is an indiscriminate afflictor. And if you want to donate, you can go onto my GoFundMe page. We will find a cure for horse face, right? Providing Big Pharma doesn't block my efforts. Now listen, it's a brilliant news cycle right now. I mean, how many jokes? It's such a shame right now that comedy, like comedians are going so far to the left with their political correctness that they can't make really awesome jokes, because there's just a buffet, right? You can have whatever you want. Like if you want to have a slice of pizza and sweet and sour pork on your plate at the same time, like it's a buffet. You can have whatever you want. Like how many jokes are there just in the fact that there's a song from the 1970s or whatever that goes, Cherokee people, boo-doo-doo-doo-boo. Cherokee tribe, right? Dude, the Cherokee Nation wrote a letter, right? They came out with like a public, and by the way, like the Cherokees, like I think they are the largest of all the tribes, like that are still formed. Like they came out and they're like, listen, this lady is despicable. She's disgusting. We want nothing to do with her. And furthermore, it's like, listen, white people, like, all right, so, you came over here and you took all of our land. Thanks for the wheel. Thanks for electricity. I guess manifest destiny, whatever. I guess, whatever. But, like, here we are. You took all our land. You put us on reservations. We don't want to give you anything more. So here comes Elizabeth Warren, who's like, well, I'm going to take like whatever sympathy people have for you as Native Americans, right? Because even, listen, I don't want to say too much, but I personally know, I'm very close to a person who is an actual American historian, right? And she can lay out, in fact, I think I'm going to have her on, see if I can get her on the show. But nobody knows more. Well, I'm sure other people know more, but there's not very many people in America who know more than this person knows about like what actually happened to the Native Americans, right? When people say like, oh, white people came over and they just, they brought these blankets that had smallpox in them, and and it was a genocide. It's like, okay, well, you're misusing the word genocide. That was a thing that happened, but that was long before scientists, well, a scientist, discovered that there was these little tiny creatures. You can't see them with the naked eye, and they live on everything. They're called germs, and some of them are good for you, but some of them will kill you. They didn't know there was any germs. Like, yeah, a lot of people got sick and died, and that is a tragedy, right? It's awful. But it's not genocide. It was an accident, a horrific accident that caused a lot of people to die. right? So when people come and they say, "Oh, it was white genocide," it's like, okay, you're trying to make me feel guilty for something that not even the people who were guilty of it should feel guilty about. They didn't know. They didn't know. They weren't the ones getting sick. They had no reason to believe that there was any sort of sickness that they had with them. And furthermore, nobody knew anything about germs. Right? You have to, you know what I'm saying? So they're like these people that try to make you feel bad or whatever. It's like, look, I will have a historian on it, and she will be able to detail, like, well, as far as the awful things that happened, like, here are the awful things that happened. And as far as, like, you know, the history that's being crammed down your throat that's complete and utter BS, it's like, well, here's what that is. Like, number one, it's genocide is not the right word. You know what I mean? But, you know, the fact is, you know, we came and, you know, to the United States, the Europeans did, and we, you know, tried to get along with who we could get along with, and then we, you know, things got kind of weird and, you know, whatever. But the fact is, you know, Native Americans live on reservations now. And that's, you can, you know, I feel a number of different ways about that. But ultimately, it's like, yeah, you know, I mean, it's kind of, we did not do everything we could have done to help those people integrate into Christian society. But moving forward, like the Cherokee Nation came out and they were like, look, you white people, like, haven't you taken enough? Like, we have a little shred of sympathy from people in the United States. We have a certain amount of, you know, respect that we get. Like, when we show up, like, you know, people understand, like, oh, these are the people that we took the land from, and maybe we shouldn't, you know, maybe we should not go out of our way to take anything more from them, right? And here comes Elizabeth Warren, just as white can be, right? She's, like, literally, when her test came back, it's like, most, you know, there's a lot of people in the United States, and I said this on yesterday's show, like, there's a lot of people in the United States that are like me. They have a certain amount of Native American blood, right? People came out west, you know, they got on the wagon train, they started moving, you know, they got on the Oregon Trail, and a lot of the, you know, God help you if your wife was pregnant, because, you know, back then, like, it was pretty much a given. If your wife got pregnant, she was going to die giving birth. And if that's the case, like, how much more is, like, she's giving birth and she's in the back of a wagon in the middle of winter in the Rocky Mountains. It's like, yeah, you don't stand a chance. So there was a lot of single men left afterwards. And when they got to where they were going, it's like, okay, well, there's no women here. What are we going to do? Oh, the tribe over there, they got some single ladies. All the single ladies. All the single ladies. Right? That's how it happened. It's very natural. So a lot of us have Native American blood. A lot of us do. And the amount of Native American blood that Elizabeth Warren has is bizarre. It's so low, it's like, wow, you know what I mean? Like, you don't even have as much as, like, everybody else does. Most, you know, there's, you know, and I'm sorry, I don't actually have the statistics, but I would hazard a guess that 50%, well, 30% of the population in the United States is at least 1/32nd Native American, right? I'm like 1/16 or 1/8 or something like that, but, and who knows? But she has a bizarrely low amount, and she was trading on this name. She literally was praised by Harvard, the oldest institution of higher learning in the United States, one of the most prestigious on the planet. It's right next door to MIT. You know what I mean? Like, it's as far as, like, having where you went to college on your resume, it's pretty much Harvard or MIT. You know what I mean? As far as, like, you know, the ones that you want to have attended in the United States. I mean, there's you know, good colleges in England. But Harvard University told this lady, like, you are the first person of color to have graduated, or female person of color, to have graduated from our institution here with whatever. She got an award from Harvard, a declaration of like, as far as people of color go, you're the first person to have accomplished whatever it was that she had accomplished. So that tells you like she was trading on that name of Cherokee. Do you see what I'm saying? So the Cherokee come out and they're like, listen, damn you white people, like, would you please stop taking stuff from us? Now you're taking our name in vain. You got a teaching job at Harvard by telling us, by telling the people at Harvard that you're an Indian, and you're not. And now that you've taken this DNA test, it's like, it's proven. And what's worse is like people, there's still like the Young Turks fans, like the people who watch the Young Turks, like they're just, it's nuts. I was shitposting I don't know if some of you guys that follow me on Facebook can see like when I'm shitposting, but I'll go on to the Young Turks and just shitpost sometimes and whatever. Just because I don't know, maybe it's like there's still some bully in my DNA. You know what I mean? Like I just want to be mean to stupid people. But it's bizarre to see how people are like coming to her defense. It's like, no. Like you're the ones who used to call us science denier. And now the science, right? Like we figured out what DNA was in the early 90s, like not very long ago. Like we unlocked this mystery that had eluded us for the entire time of human history. We decoded it. Now we can find out, like, you can send in your blood, which I do not recommend, by the way. Don't send your blood into the internet, you creeps. That's a bad proposition, right? Go read 1984. Anyways, the science comes out and it says, like, holy crap, you have such an abnormal low amount of the continent of the Americas DNA in your blood. It's like that's the reason why you're special, is because you have so little of it. You know what I mean? The science, these people that that will call you a science denier if you're like, yeah, I don't know if global warming is man-made or not. Could just be that we're on a cycle as a planet, that we're rotating a little closer to the sun. Gets further away, gets a little closer, gets further away, gets a little closer. Right? The Earth doesn't go around the sun in a perfect circle, right? It's more of an oval. And, so it's just weird to see these people that are like, oh, see, she said she was part Indian, and sure enough, it's like, what? What are you talking about? Anyways, but believe it or not, everything I just said, that was actually the show's intro. That's not what I want to talk about today. I do want to talk about it because there's so much comedy that's just sitting there, and I myself do not have 10 years of experience writing jokes. I wish I did right now, because boy, I bet I could write some just absolute room killers. I bet I can make people piss their pants with the amount of jokes that are just out there in the ether right now, waiting for a guy like Owen Benjamin or Steven Crowder or Nick DiPaolo or these kind of guys to just sit down and just bang out jokes. I mean, just, you know what I mean? Like, you could just put as many combinations of joke, you know what I mean? You got Horseface Lady, you got Cherokee people, Cherokee tribe, you know what I mean? Like, literally, Elizabeth Warren is more Jeep Grand Cherokee than she is Native American Cherokee. You know what I mean? It's nuts. And there was a couple of things that I wanted to talk about today, and I'm not sure which way this was going. The first thing was, speaking of Elizabeth Warren, let's talk about another Warren. Warren Buffett, right? Warren Buffett said once, he said, the stock market is a place where impatient people go to give their money to patient people. And I want to talk about that, but I'm not going to. somebody remind me, like write me on Telegram or write me on Facebook and remind me to go in depth on people who think like poor people. They think like poor people. And our politicians are that class of people. They are poor people who've been given a great deal of money and power. And that's a dangerous thing, because another quote that Warren Buffett said was, if you ever have the misfortune of somebody giving you $1 million, you better take that $1 million and go pay somebody to teach you how to be a millionaire. Because there's the moral to that little proverb is like, dude, there is a completely different, those are two different universes. Having $1 million and being a millionaire are two totally different things. One of them is a mindset. The other one is something that it's why so many lottery people that win the lottery have committed suicide and are almost always completely bankrupt within 3 to 5 years of having won it. It's because it's like, well, you're rich, but you're still thinking like a poor person. And if you think like a poor person, you're not going to be able to you're not going to know how to manage money. But again, somebody remind me, because I want to go deep on that, and I want to try to keep this show at around an hour. So somebody remind me, write me on Telegram, write me on Facebook, go onto my website. You can write me an email, and I will receive it. Let me read. Go onto my website. It's archadvocate.com. arch-advocate.com. And I want you to remind me to go deep on thinking like a poor person or thinking like a rich person. But I want to, real quick, before I get into today's show, a listener, Nellie, wrote in and wrote, Nellie, listen, I'm sorry, Nellie, I don't know if that's a man's name or a girl's name. What's that? It's Pat. Anyways, Nellie wrote, and I'm sorry, Nellie, just a joke at your expense, just breaking your balls if you have balls. 3 times in a row now, says the email, that your podcast on my iPhone has been deleted completely before I had a chance to share it. Within minutes of me hearing it, grrr, I will not be getting an Apple product ever again. And I wrote back and I said, what? Is that normal? Does that happen to other podcasts that you are into? Right? Because that's, that could be a problem on her end or his end, right? That could just be, listen, I'm a technological idiot. I do stuff that's wrong all the time. So it's like, well, maybe you're like me. Maybe you just screwed it up and didn't do it right. So I asked Nellie, I said, is that normal? Does this happen on other podcasts that you're into? Because if it's, if that happens with all the podcasts that you listen to, well, then it's your fault. So Nellie writes me back and it says, well, I just got a CRTV subscription. You should look in to see if you could also upload to their platform. But it seems like Apple is notorious for this kind of censorship. Yeah, listen, I'm gonna start petitioning CRTV, but listen, my numbers are gonna have to be a lot bigger to attract those people. But I'm not afraid of asking. That's the whole thing. There's ask and you shall receive. So and ask repeatedly. Keep asking, keep seeking, keep knocking. So listen, the fact is Nellie and a number of other people, including one of the guests that I had on the show at the earlier part of the month, I am being censored. All right, somehow I got on the radar. I thought that my show was small enough that wouldn't happen, but here we are. I've been censored, and I would really, truly appreciate it if you guys would hit subscribe on the podcast. You can listen to this podcast on the Libsyn account. You can listen to it on iTunes, SoundCloud, iHeartRadio, Spotify, anywhere where there is a podcast. In fact, I think the only place that I'm not on is Podcast One. But everywhere else, it's like, go to those places, subscribe to my podcast. Also, it costs me money, right? I hook my podcast host is Libsyn. I have their biggest package so that I can upload a bunch of stuff. It's $75 a month, and you know, eventually one of these days, this GoPro that I'm recording this on, it's gonna go down. This sweet ass $3,500 laptop that I do everything on, all the editing, it's gonna break down. And when that happens, I'm gonna need some money that I do not currently have. So if you want to support the show, right, and also my family, like quit screwing around here. I got expenses, brother. If you want to support, I would appreciate it, right? Stefan Molyneux does it. Everybody who podcasts says, hey, look, if you want to support the show, you don't have to do a lot, man. You know, you don't have to be, you know, my sugar daddy. You can just do $3 a month on Patreon. You can do $5 a month. You can do whatever you want. You don't even have to do a monthly thing. Like if you just want to send some dough, like a one-time thing, a lot of people do that too. Well, not a lot, but you know, a number of people do that. They'll just go onto Patreon, just send in a 20, send over 100. I've had that a couple of times. You know, of course, that's always huge. But you know, whatever you want to do, it's all appreciated. So you go on to archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. Let's get into what I really wanted to talk about today: miracles. Right? Miracles. Now you're probably rolling your eyes. Oh God, he's gonna start talking all that Jesus stuff. Yeah, well, you know, I'm a Christian. Anyways, I do the same thing too. I'm just like you, atheist. Don't hang up. Don't hit stop. Hang out for a second. I'm just like you. When Christian people start talking about miracles or prophecy, or not really prophecy, but like the interpretation of prophecy, dude, my eyes start rolling. Oh boy, here we go. Listen to me though. On this one, just hang out for a second. Let me finish. Right? Let me finish. I've seen miracles. About 6.5 years ago, actually 7 years ago. 7 years ago last month, actually. Right? Anyways, I went on what's called a pilgrimage, or what Australian people call walkabout, or there's a lot of different names for it, but pilgrimage is when, or it used to be, that it's when you go for a long walk for an indefinite amount of time for the purpose of praying and seeking answers, or seeking God's face, or whatever it is that you want to call it. And there are pilgrims trails all over the world. Right? This is an ancient rite, R-I-T-E. This is an ancient rite. Many people have done it. Kings have done it, and peasants, and everybody in between. And I did that, and I went on what's called a, you know, or what's referred to as like a true pilgrimage, and that's where not only do you go for a long walk for an indefinite amount of time, but you also take no money, right? As an effort to sort of speed up the process of learning how to live in faith, right? And I did that. I walked away from San Diego in 2011, and just took a backpack with a sleeping bag, a couple changes of underwear, not much else, right? And $8. I took $8. So and you can scold me for that anytime you want. And I made it all the way to the border of Syria and back. Right? So suffice it to say, I've seen a number of miracles. I'm going to tell you the truth about miracles, or one truth that we're going to focus on today. There's a number of them. I'm going to tell you one truth about miracles is that they almost always, right? They are very rarely spectacular, right? They look normal. It's very easy for miracles to escape your eye or to escape your notice. I'm going to give you an example of that. You remember the story in the Bible of when the Israelites were escaping Egypt, and they got to the Red Sea, and they were cornered by Pharaoh and his men, and a pillar of fire came down out of the sky and held Pharaoh's armies at bay, and the ocean, the Red Sea, which is, it's a big ocean, it's a big lake, right? It's massive. It's like, like if you've ever gone to like the Great Lakes, when you stand on the shores of the Great Lakes, it's like you can't see the other side. It just looks like an ocean, right? It's a lot of water. That's what the Red Sea is like. And so in that story, we read that God himself parted the waters using wind and waves, right? That the sea opened up, and the wind, blow dried the ground so that the ground was hard, it wasn't muddy. And 6 million Jews, or 4 million, or however many it was, they just walked across, and then when they were done, God collapsed, the sea, and it smashed Pharaoh's armies. You remember that story, right? That's a hard one to believe, isn't it? Like Jonah and the whale, like that's, even for a Christian person, it's like, ooh, that's a tough one. I don't know if I believe that. That's a tall tale right there. You know what I mean? But there's a part of that story that you miss, because nobody ever talks about it, is that, because you would think, like, if you saw that, if you were witness to that, you would think that your faith in Yahweh, right, in the Lord God Almighty, that you would have no confusion, no disillusionment in the area of your faith from that point on. You would think that, right? Like if you saw that, you'd be like, okay, now I know for sure that there is a God who thinks and focuses on protecting my life, and from now on I'm sold. Say no more. I'm in. You would think, right? But if you keep reading after that story, within a number of days, Israel is dancing around, having a completely hedonistic party, worshiping a golden cow that Aaron, the high priest, had commissioned to be, melted into, whatever, formed. That's the part of the story that tells me, like, okay, right, something happened here. How is it that, like, if you're going to tell me that story, right, Moses, hey Moses, if you're going to write down that story for me to read and expect me to believe it, and then on the very next page you're going to tell me that just days later they were worshiping a golden cow, it's like, where did your faith go? Did you not see the ocean open up? Right? Now you're making it nearly impossible for me to believe both stories and that any of it's true. Right? But you have to dig in a little deeper. Right? You go back to the story of when Moses parted the Red Sea, and you will find that the reason why the people that all of the Israelites were so unimpressed, they were so unimpressed that days later they saw a golden cow and decided to worship it, was because at the parting of the Red Sea, all they saw was wind and waves. Very natural elements. We see wind and waves all the time. Nothing to see here, folks. This is just normal stuff. Ooh-wee. Hey, you guys want to go to the cow worshiping party? Yeah, man, let's go. How's the weather going to be? Oh, it's going to be nice. Not like the other day when it was so windy that the Red Sea opened up. That's what those people thought. Ooh-wee. Remember that day? It was so windy that the ocean opened up? right? They saw natural elements. Wind and waves, that's what the Bible says. It says wind and waves. That's why miracles are often dismissed as just normal things, because God lives in the natural world and the supernatural world. When God does things, it's always, he uses his laws of physics. You know what I mean? Like, there's not going to be, like, God is not going to come down on a chariot of fire throwing lightning bolts and riding on a unicorn, you know what I mean? And whatever, you know what I mean? Like, it's not like that. It's wind and waves. And if you're not careful to notice, you're going to end up worshiping a golden cow. Now, as I said before, like, I struck out, you know, and when I say struck out, I don't mean like baseball. Like, I came to a point in my life where, like, I had to know the truth. I had to know if there truly was a God or not, because Christianity in America had left me with, you know, some very deep questions. And when it comes to miracles, like I said, like, I walked across, you know, the United States, got flown across the ocean. Then I walked from Spain to Syria and hitchhiked. Then back, and then got flown back across the ocean with no money and without begging or asking people or anything like that. All right, and I'm writing a book about that. So I just wanted to let you know. I'm not saying that to brag. I'm letting you know, like, I'm qualified to talk about miracles because I've seen them. You guys want to hear it here before I get into, you know, the show? I'll tell you a miracle story, and you will see when I'm done with this story. You're going to say, well, that sounds very, like, possible in the realm of, like, not miracle land, right? But I'll just tell you this one story. And I've got hundreds of these, by the way. I got to Spain. I had been walking for about 9 months, right? I got flown out of Miami to Barcelona. Got to Barcelona, and about 3 days later, I was out of money again, right? Because when I left Miami, some of the people I had met there gave me like $170, something like that. And, you know, when I used it, I, you know, would use it for food and whatever, and then that money ran out. And you know, even though I had been living in faith for several months, when I got to Spain, like, and I ran out of money, I realized, like, oh no, like, not only am I in the middle of Spain, I was walking down this road, and it was central to you know, in central Spain. And it was like kind of like a back road. Nobody was on it. Like, you know, maybe a car would go past every 5-10 minutes, something like that. Very desolate road. And it all started crashing down on me, like, oh no, I'm out of food. I don't have any money. And what's worse is, like, now I'm in Spain. I'm not in America anymore. I don't speak Spanish. Nobody in this region is probably, you know what I mean? This isn't like a coastal city where everybody speaks English. Like, I'm in the middle. I'm not around a big town. Like, I don't speak Spanish. Like, oh no, what am I going to do? And I panicked. I was panicking for like a while, like probably half an hour I was panicking. And then I just realized, like, oh, that's right. I've been doing this for months, and I have yet to miss a single meal. God has been providing for me in the moment this whole time. And what I need to do is remember those things. Remember, right? Because that's one of the most used words in the Old Testament is remember. Like, God keeps telling these people, remember how I've taken care of you. Remember these things. Write it down. Tell your kids, remember these things. And so I started remembering. Like, every time, like, I was in danger, or, you know, out of food or out of money or whatever, like, God always provided. And so I just started praying out like this gratefulness, like, oh yeah, thank you, Lord, And I'm walking down this desolate road with no cars on it, with my hands in the air, and I'm just praising God. And all of a sudden, this car pulls up, right? Slows down, the passenger side window goes down, and these people are talking to me in Spanish. But in Spain, they're kind of like Italians. They're kind of loud. You know what I mean? They speak loudly, and they're saying something in Spanish, and I said, no, habla, sorry, And they hand me 20 euros and drove off. Right? A couple hours later of walking, there was a little restaurant, and that's I ate that day. I was in the middle of Spain with no money and no food, and all of a sudden, I was in the middle of Spain with a little bit of money, enough to buy me food for that day. That's a miracle. I didn't know those people. They didn't know me. I'd never been to Spain before. They had no idea what I was doing out there. That's it. That's the story. That's miracles. Now, an atheist or a non-believer or whatever can look at that and say to themselves, like, well, I mean, a lot of things could have happened. They could have thought you were a homeless person and just wanted to be generous. And it's like, okay, well, yeah, there's a lot. There's a lot of different ways that you can look at that. But that's worshiping the golden cow. Right? Because I can tell you a story of how things like that happen to me every single day for a year. And people, people I didn't even know bought me a plane ticket, right? Without me asking, without me telling them, like, oh, I'm just walking around with no money, worshiping Jesus, right? I didn't do that. On that trip, it was very important that I not let anybody know, like, yeah, I don't have any money. You know what I mean? Because I was clean shaven, my clothes were always clean. You know what I mean? I didn't look like a bum. So when it comes to miracles, like, I have a little bit of experience in this matter, and what I want to talk about is, like, you are seeing miracles right now, and I want to make sure that they don't escape you, because they're happening right in front of you, and you need to be grateful for these things. Number one, Donald J. Trump won an election that was rigged. Okay? We know that the Democrats they are not above rigging an election. In fact, they practice it all the time. We know that Bernie Sanders won California and Florida. Right? We know that he won the Democrat race to find out who was going to be the front runner for the Democratic Party. We know it was Bernie Sanders. And the Democratic National Convention just said, nah, we're going to run Hillary. Sorry. All right, it's rigged. We know that every time there's a vote that comes down to, like, Democrat versus Republican type of thing, that oddly enough, the dead are raised and they show up and they vote Democrat. And I want you to make no mistake here that on November 6th, there will be so many dead people coming back to life and voting Democrat that even the most staunch atheist, Richard Dawkins or whoever, will think to themselves, holy crap, this is the second coming of the Lord Jesus Christ. There's going to be so many dead people voting on November 6th that Richard Dawkins will believe that Jesus has returned and raised the dead. Right? That is a joke, by the way. Donald J. Trump won an election that was rigged. That's a miracle. Now, we didn't see it, though. We didn't see it because we don't really know how many people actually voted. None of us really know what the Electoral College is or how it works. You know what I mean? We kind of know, but not really. But let me assure you that was a rigged election by the most powerful family in American politics. They had it in the bag, and that's why Hillary Clinton didn't go to those states, like the ones that she lost, the ones that cost her the election. That's why she didn't go. It's because it was rigged. And there was divine intervention. God saved us from Hillary Clinton. Hillary Clinton is so evil that God had to intervene and say, no. All right. Donald Trump is no saint, but he's not demon possessed like you are, you filthy old demon bag. These are people that their stock in trade is lying. Their whole thing is lying. And there's reels and reels and reels of video talking with those people. Like I was saying yesterday on that Project Veritas videos, they're just sitting there like, yeah, we have to lie, it's just how it's done. Okay, well, lies originate from somewhere. Lying, the concept, a lie, has a father. His name is Satan. Hazatan. Satan? The devil. Lucifer. The father of lies. And these Democrats are on TV saying, yeah, we gotta lie. That's how we get power. That's their power. It's weakness and darkness and deception. It's lies. And right now there is a magnificent spiritual battle happening right now, and I don't want you to miss it. I don't want you to miss anything because we are seeing God at work. Right? We just saw Donald J. Trump win a rigged election. And now we're seeing all the lies coming out. Oh, he's a Russian. He colluded with the Russians and he slept with a hooker and he, Brett Kavanaugh raped a lady 37 years ago and it's just lies, and there is no end in sight. These people, you would think, like, as many times as these people have just been caught red-handed, just lying their asses off, you would think that they would stop at some point. Nope. Hillary Clinton goes back on TV and says there will be no more civility until you give me what I want. Then I will be civil to you. You know what I mean? She just said that like a couple of days ago. This is who these people are. There is no end in sight. There's no end to this. The end of this will be things like if Donald J. Trump begins declassifying and demanding, like, 'cause there's things that Trump is demanding, be shown to the American people, and there's like guys like Rod Rosenstein are blocking it. It's like, dude, this, like, ultimately Donald Trump is the president of the United States. He has the power. I don't know why he hasn't figured out how to use it yet, but I mean the power is there. And the way to put an end to this is like, we need to find out who Hillary Clinton really is and then send her to jail in a very public way, right? We need to see, like, that guy that sent the ricin, poisonous powder to try to kill James Mattis and try to kill Ted Cruz. It's like, that guy served in the Navy, and if it turns out that guy is guilty, technically, I think that he could be brought under charges under the Uniform Code of Military Justice, which would be different than public jail or public justice. Different in the sense that he could be executed publicly. Now, I know that it's a hard thing when you start talking about turning out somebody's lights, but the fact is like, look, you want to push back the tide of evil, you need to let evil people know, like, there are consequences and they are severe. Miracles is what we are seeing. Don't miss it. The evil that has been exposed, right? The weakness of these people, it is a miracle that you are seeing, like, the weak nature of, like, take Elizabeth Warren. She's out there talking about, oh, I'm a Native American, and that's how I got my thing at Harvard, and that's, which eventually led to me becoming a senator. It's like, you mean it's all based on just complete fluffy BS? Like, you just said you were a Native American so that you could get stuff? Power, and money? Wow. It's right out in the open now. You can see it. It's a wonderful, it's crazy to see, but at the same time, it's like, don't miss it. Like, that's a supernatural thing that you're seeing right now. And people's response to it, right? When they start making excuses for Elizabeth Warren, that is supernatural. Don't miss it. It's crazy. You know what I mean? Like, you like reading those old stories in the Bible of David, killing Goliath and, all that stuff. It's like, dude, you're living in it right now. Don't miss it. Don't worship the golden cow. Don't dismiss it as wind and waves. These are very spiritual times, and you can approach it pragmatically. It's all happening right there. These people are full of nothing comes out of their mouths that's truth. I'm a Native American. Look, it says right here, I'm 1024th. See, I told you so. Like, what? Wow, you got some huge balls on you, lady. Oh, look at me. I'm Dianne Feinstein. Look at this rape accuser from, saying that she was raped 37 years ago. Oh, look at this lady. She says that she went to 10 different rape parties with Brett Kavanaugh. And Michael Avenatti's just out there just parading her right down the road. Right? Look at me. I'm going to run for president in 2020. Look at this lady. She says she got raped 10 times. Or she went to rape parties 10 times. You know what I mean? Like, they're so weak-minded that they can't see, like, okay, you understand that most people are actually reasonable, hardworking, dedicated. You know what I mean? Like, there's no possible way you're going to get away with this. And now Stormy Daniels. Now Stormy Daniels, in a beautiful twist, a beautiful plot twist, where old Horseface is told, no, you cannot sue Donald Trump for defamation, but what you can do is go pay all of his legal fees for suing him for defamation. She doesn't have any money, folks. She's broke. She's going to be calling Michael Avenatti saying, hey, can you help me? Can you pay this for me? She's still a stripper. She's still having to take her clothes off for money in seedy, gross, disgusting, sticky floored strip clubs. She doesn't have the money. Her life is going to be destroyed. Now that is unfortunate, but it's like, these are the consequences. You want to live in a world of darkness and lies, there are consequences, and these are what they are. And as you see these consequences happening, you can sit there and say, well, it's just the law, man. It's like, yeah, but like, think about how much work went into, like, look, you can trace all of our laws, right? Like, all the laws that we have in the United States, you can all trace it back to the Magna Carta. And then when you get there, you can trace it all the way back to the writings of Moses. You don't think it's a miracle just because it took 6,000 years for it to happen? It's a miracle. Stormy Daniels has to pay Donald Trump for his legal fees. That's a miracle. Michael Avenatti's career is being destroyed right now because of his own decisions. That's a miracle. The Cherokee Nation writes a letter like just condemning Elizabeth Warren. That's a miracle. Donald J. Trump won an election that he had absolutely no possibility of winning because it was fixed. That's a miracle. Don't worship the golden cow. Don't dismiss it as wind and waves. They're miracles. They're nothing short of miracles. Live in it and be grateful. Vocalize your gratefulness to the Almighty and say, thank you, God. Thank you for even allowing me to live in such spiritual, like where the spiritual realm is manifesting so severely in the physical realm. It's so easy to see right now. You know what I mean? Like, listen, folks, we might not get another shot at this. You know what I mean? Like, you think about, like, how difficult it was to observe miracles for the last, I don't know, few decades, right? Well, right now it's like, it's happening everywhere. It's all around us. Don't miss it, right? You're living in biblical times. Somebody needs to write this down. You know what I mean? Somebody needs to write this down so that 1,000 years from now, they can take your writings and say, well, we need to, maybe consider putting this in the holy canon. Those were clearly very spiritual times. Let's add to the book, right? I'm being a little funny there, but you know what I'm saying. Like, don't miss it. Don't miss the story. Don't miss the miracle. Don't dismiss it as wind and waves. Do not worship the golden cow. Right? Because then if you do that, the cost, the wages of doing that, it's like, well, then you have to live in the temporal realm exclusively. It's like, no, there's this whole other world. It's just behind the one that you can see. It's right there. It's just on the other side of what you can see. And it ties into everything that happens in the temporal. And this eternal kingdom, like, you can live in it right now, all the time. This was the gospel that Jesus Christ preached. Repent. Turn. Change. Why? Because the kingdom of heaven, it's at hand, which means within your reach now. And it's happening all around you, man. You can see it. Demons are running around right out in the open. They're not even trying to hide anymore. They're going into schools and reading books to children. You can see it. Oh, Pete, those are just people that are dressed up like mythical characters. Okay. All right, go worship the golden cow. Go worship the golden cow and live in the temple universe where nihilism is the preferred, whatever. You're just a lemming. You might as well jump off of a cliff. If there's nothing else in your life than a temporal existence, then you might that's what nihilism is like, well, there's no meaning to anything. There's no meaning to anything. It's like, well, if that's true, then the most logical course for you would be to terminate your own life. Because your life is going to ultimately end, and you're going to go out in pain and misery, and it's like, why would you sign up for that? Why would you continue to live knowing that life is pain and trials and trauma and disappointment and whatever? Don't worship the golden cow. It leads to nihilism. You know what I mean? Like, if you think that the world is exclusively physical, it's exclusively temporal, right? Then there's no miracles for you. There's nothing outside of it. And therefore, you should be a nihilist. And if you are a nihilist and you stare down into the abyss long enough for it to, stare into the abyss long enough for it to stare back at you, you might as well do like the lemmings do and just jump off the cliff. Because there's really no point going on, because it's just going to be more suffering and more disappointment and whatever, with a tiny little nugget here and there of happiness or joy or something. But nothing certainly eternal. Certainly nothing eternal for you. Don't worship the golden cow. Don't miss what's going on. It is magnificent. You can see evil being defeated right now. That's why I keep saying, like, the devil and demons, and it's like every time you see them in the Bible, they're always getting their ass kicked every single time. And right now you can see demons right out in the open, and guess what? They're getting their asses kicked. You should appreciate it while it's happening. It's like if I told you should go up to Canada and watch the Aurora Borealis, it's like, like if you were sitting there in the back of a pickup truck while the aurora was going on and you're dicking around on your phone, I'd be like, dude, you're missing it. You know what I mean? There's spiritual things happening right now. Don't miss it. See it for what it is. And be grateful that you are able to. I know some of it's pretty scary, but it's like, at least be grateful that you're even in a cross section of this, space-time continuum where you get to stand and behold it. Behold, it's happening right now. That's the show for today. God bless every single one of you guys. If you want to support the show, again, archadvocate.com, arch-advocate.com. Keep in mind, I've got a baby coming any day now, so if you wake up one day and the podcast isn't here, it's because either my baby is being born or like yesterday. Yesterday the podcast was late getting posted because in the village that I'm in, there was a power outage, which is normal. It happens, I don't know, once every couple of weeks. And so, no electricity, therefore no internet, therefore no podcast until late. But other than that, like if you don't see the podcast for a full day, it's either because it's Saturday or Sunday or because my son is on his way into this world from his mama's vagine. Anyways, and after that, I will be making more human beings with my ding-dong. And I think you should too. Make more babies, people. Be happy. Live your life, man. There's a whole world behind the world that you can see. And I'll talk to you tomorrow.